I know we're back to it here. Been plenty busy here the last day and an hour, so we'll jump in a couple news and notes for you, and then take whatever questions that you have. On the topic of Thanksgiving, we had another double-digit increase year over year with 43,000 passengers went through our airport for Thanksgiving weekend, which is a 15.3% increase from the same time last year. So I think just off of memory, all the months that we've given you guys data and updates continues to be the same thing, which is this double-digit 12, 13, 15, 16% growth over just last year. So and then we expected about another 9,500 passengers going through yesterday. So we'll see that number continue to increase. The couple things that you'll see, we'll have a very, very busy December meeting. We only have the one meeting in December, and we've got I know a lot of issues. All of that is getting finalized, of course, and that'll be public, the agenda on Monday. But a couple things to mention today. We are going to put in an ordinance that will allow the city to have some accountability with tree contractors cutting down trees. One of the things that we identified when we got in, when the administration began, was we would have many situations where a tree contractor would come out, cut down a tree at a house, and the only authority we had was to levy fines or something punitive towards the homeowner, which in some cases is warranted. In many cases it's warranted, so there's nothing wrong with that. But as a business owner, I signed a lot of documents and a lot of items that required me to have expertise in how things operate. And I believe that tree contractors that work in the city and have the business tax receipt and license to be able to work in the city should have the expertise that when they are called by a homeowner who may or may not know the rules, that is your business, that is your profession to know the rules. So we're going to be running before I'll talk a little bit about what some of that will say, but understand that there's a lot of factors here. It's not just the preservation of our tree canopy and the enforcing of our rules that are already on the books, but there's public safety aspects to this when you're cutting down trees. There's lots of things that go into this. So I just really considered it disjointed to say that when a tree is cut down, that solely the homeowner is responsible, and the normal procedure has been for that homeowner or that property owner to then reach out to the administration or to me personally and say, well, I didn't know. And even though it is clearly in black and white what the policy is, and sometimes they might be telling the truth and sometimes they may not be, but the only concept that we should have is if you have a license in this city to cut down trees, you should know the rules on what trees should be able to be cut down and not. So the enforcement ability we'll have is written notice, of course, remedial work and stop work orders. For heritage trees, an arborist must perform the pruning and removal, and then of course there'll be penalties like paid fines that go into the tree planting trust fund, the same way that's set up right now for property owners. But you'll also be subject to losing the ability to do business in the city, and this is not a foreign concept for anybody who has a business. You have rules that if you are not held accountable to them, whether it be at the local level or the state level or the federal level, if you continue to violate those rules, you are not going to be in business anymore. And that I don't think that the tree contractors should be immune from being professionals in their field. And so anyway, that will be talked about obviously at the Monday agenda conference, December 11th, and then we'll discuss that on the 14th. Malcolm Young will be voted on. The contract award for demolition will be at the CRA meeting on December 11th. It's a contract for $59,079 is the demolition cost. That's demolition, material removal, and site cleanup. And we had received 7 responses. So we were excited to see, like with any project, we'd like to see a lot of bids and make sure it's competitive. So And it'll be funded by the CRA if approved. So, if you recall, we went to last month's CRA to have a discussion item about it, about what people wanted to see there, what the CRA board wanted to see there, and then that we told them we would bring this forward. We're kind of really doing the same thing at the CRA coming up, which is we're going to vote on this, but we're going to discuss some potential options of what can happen at the property. And so that will be a discussion item during the CRA meeting. We'll be having Rachel Bennett, our CRA urban planner, urban design planner, will come show the CRA board. You can set it this way, and you can have 14 units of workforce housing built there. You can set it this way, and just some different options to get some feedback on that ahead of what a potential RFP would be to be able to build that housing that we've talked about. So there'll be some more information to come there and some more opportunities for the CRA board to ask some questions about that. Legislative requests are officially in now. The airport terminal, Baptist Hospital. We also put a legislative request in partnership with Conservation Florida. It's our request for $2.2 million for Bayless Park. So that is officially in, and we'll, and Alex Smith in my office has worked diligently on that to get he's the point person to get all of that stuff in, and so much appreciated. And he's worked alongside. We've been in constant conversation with Conservation Florida. It will be a city ask, but certainly the advocacy and the hope of getting that funding will be a team effort between Conservation Florida and the city to see what we can do. So we obviously have two very big dollar asks coming ahead of that: airport terminal and Baptist Hospital. But we weren't going to go a legislative session without at least taking the opportunity to see if we can get some funding there. Let's see, I've got some other, before I get to that, so I've just really got some dates, reminders. I mentioned last week the Miraflores GPR survey that is open to the public, November 29th. That is this coming, or that's tomorrow, excuse me, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they'll be out there doing the GPR study. So again, public are more than welcome to come out there. City staff and folks from the Florida Public Archaeology Network will be out there on site to answer any questions, and you can see what they're doing. So excited to get that going. Our monitored recycling drop-off site is back open. Of course, it was closed this past Saturday, but it will continue in case someone showed up there and thought we'd stop doing it. I hadn't gotten any emails or any communication about that, so I think we were able to get the word out. But every Saturday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 2759 North Palafox. So that will continue. Let's see, a couple other dates. We got the USO 5K is on Saturday, December 2nd. That's out at Pensacola International Airport. It's out on the runway 5K. So lots of coordination and effort goes into having that every year. I was in decent enough shape to run it last year. We'll see about this year. It's been a busy year, so but I'll give it my best shot. The Pensacola Fire Department is keeping the Wreath Green Fire Safety Campaign begins December 1st. You'll remember we have a wreath at City Hall, hoping that they'll also be at the 5 fire stations in the 21 county fire stations, and it's really just to promote fire safety through the holiday season that we hope all those bulbs stay green and don't turn red, which would be a fire that causes some kind of displacement. So I know we had at least a red bulb, maybe two, off memory last year. So hopefully we can keep that whole thing green. And last thing, we've talked about it a couple times previously. We had said we delayed the building height land development code amendment. It was going to go into November. It's now going to be on the December 14th meeting as well. Forgot to mention, which would allow for building height bonuses the same way that we allow right now currently for density bonuses on property if certain things are performed, or it gives us the ability to offer verticality as an asset to help us better the community, to generate revenue, to take on affordable housing projects, things like that as well. So that has already been voted on, I think voted through unanimously at Planning Board. The first reading of that ordinance will be also on the December 14th meeting. So if you plan on covering that meeting, just don't have any kind of dinner plans. It'll be a long one. But that's good. A lot of great progress happening there. Red light cameras, some of the ordinance cleanup there will be part of that as well. We won't be identifying those intersections within that vote, but it's just it's really the cleanup of the ordinance that allows us to enforce red light cameras. So it's kind of procedural on the legal side for us to move that forward. So anyway, that's everything I got, and happy to take your questions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So over the holidays at the airport, there was problems with parking capacity. I know that's kind of a constant issue.
Yep.
Are there any updates or potential changes to address that problem, or is it included in the expansion at all?
Yeah, so we're taking on 400 plus spaces of surface parking happening this spring. That's not delayed by or contingent upon the airport expansion, and because and that has been in the works, in process for months. So that that this is not something reactionary because of the last couple months or anything like that. We know that that's in place. We've discussed through the rest of the holiday season potentially a contingency plan with some of the staffing, perhaps having to do some shuttling. That some of the airport staff, which would be an inconvenience to them, but certainly we are not sitting on our hands and saying it's not our job to fix. There's just some realities that we're facing right now, which is all the capacity issues I mentioned during State of the City. If you look at every factor of our airport right now, we are over capacity in many cases by double, and not by 10%, not by 50%, by 100%, and many facets of our airport. So the terminal expansion really will be the ultimate pressure release valve, but that is a couple years away. But we're working diligently, including improvements and repairs to the garage that have limited some capacity, as well as the 400 plus surface spaces that we're working on for the spring. So that is moving forward regardless. That we're trying to get relief to parking as fast as we can, and you heard it at the beginning. It's I don't care what weekend, what month you look at, when you compare to 2022 to 2023, it isn't 5%, it's 12, 13, 15% more throughputs in plane that's happening at the airport, and so it's why it's our number one priority legislatively, and again, we're doing everything that we can. We appreciate I certainly understand the inconvenience that causes. We've all flown and traveled out of this and many other airports, and we know that makes it's stressful enough. We know it makes it more stressful when it's hard to find parking. I mean, I certainly recommend taking advantage of one of the big benefits that we have at the airport, which is that we have a very centrally located airport, and to use rideshare, to use taxis. I really encourage that. That's the way I do it a lot of times, especially if you're going to be gone for multiple days. It's really might be even a little bit of a cost savings, and then you don't have that variable to worry about. And so, I know having a little more rideshare usage will certainly take some of the pressure off as well. I recommend that to anybody out there, right now, especially through this holiday season. If you can use rideshare, take advantage of the fact that we've got an airport right in our town, and it's not 30, 40 miles out. That might cost $100. I was just in Pittsburgh, and and there's many cities like that where it's $60, $70 each way. If you're anywhere in the general vicinity of the city, it shouldn't be that way, and hopefully you can even save a few dollars and add some convenience as well. So we are doing the best we can, and we'll continue to move forward on that project.
On the tree contractor ordinance you mentioned, so I guess first off, is a draft available?
Yeah, it should be. Let me make sure that it's finalized. We have everything goes final on our agenda this Friday, this coming Friday. So I know we will by then. I'll work with Dominique or whatever to get you. I've seen some drafts with placeholders that I know are in my email, but that may not be the final copy. So let me get back with you on that. But we can for sure.
And I guess will the enforcement mechanism be the business license specific of the tree contractors? Yes.
So it's how the ordinance is written is that it's not as rigid as saying there's going to be some subjectivity of you are subject to these things, whether it be a written. Obviously, as you can imagine, there could be a certain size of tree, a heritage oak that's been there for 150 years, being cut down in the middle of the night is different than, something that could have been accidental and maybe not a tree that it doesn't, that isn't as old, isn't as, was it in the right of way or was it in their own backyard? I mean, there's so much subjectivity to it that we certainly wanted to be fair about it, that it's not strike one is this, strike two is that you don't have a license. But we also think that there could be things egregious enough where there doesn't need to be 2 and 3 and 4 steps potentially. So what you'll see in it when we get that to you is a lot of what is in there does mirror what is levied currently to the property owner in terms of uniformity. But of course, the one thing that is going to be in this that isn't in the property owner is there's no business license to take from a property owner. So. But this is just to add a layer of accountability to folks that I believe should be the utmost experts in the field. As I said, I had a lot of licenses. In the bar business, you have a lot of licenses and you have a lot of accountability to doing the right thing. You don't say that the customer should know when they walk in. You're accountable, and that's part of being a business owner. And so we're not trying to be unfair to these tree companies. We appreciate people doing business in the city. I'm, as you can imagine, as pro of small business as anyone. But with that comes rules and comes accountability, and not passing the buck off to a property owner who may or may not have known, and then them asking the city, well, wait, I didn't know. Why am I being punished? Let's keep accountable the folks that are in this business and that should know the rules. And what I hope is that we don't have to take away any business licenses. The hope of this is that this creates accountability, that everybody should know the rule, and that when that homeowner does call a tree company that works in the city, they're going to say, well, let me get back with you on that because I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. That's what, if this works correctly, it's not to play gotcha, it's to give some real tangible accountability to the people who are cutting down trees that shouldn't be cut down and not going through the proper procedure. So I would say it's pretty closely tied to what is already on the books, except for, of course, the ability to take away the business license in the city.
I guess I didn't know. So, genuinely, like if a tree company is based in Santa Rosa County or out in the unincorporated Escambia County, to operate in the city, they still have to have a city business license?
Yeah, I mean, we have a business tax receipt, requirement at this. So, for example, you work in Escambia County, you pay, at least at the time, off my entrepreneur memory, was, $25, $30 that you'd have a license with the county, and then you're required to have a business tax receipt in the city. That's any business. That's not just obviously limited to tree companies. And what you pay is based on a certain number of employees. And we're really coincidental to that. We're kind of looking at that, just analyzing what works there and what doesn't. And is there ways to simplify that for business owners too? That we've got it broken down into 1 to 6 employees, 7 to 12, 13 to 18. So there's some kind of modernization we may be taking a look at in terms of. I know that's not your question, but just kind of independent of that, you might see some ways that we can make that more efficient and make more sense for both the city and business owners. But yes, city that there's a requirement that you have a business tax receipt in the city.
This is going to make the tree service more accountable for what action they do for cutting down trees in the city of Pensacola.
Right, correct. I mean, the best analogy for it would be if a contractor's coming to build your house and they don't build it to code and the inspections comes out, they don't say, well, this wasn't built to code, so I'm going to go find the homeowner. They say, hey, you're the professional, you're the one with the license, you're the one that should know better. We're not going to require that a homeowner who simply is paying for a home to be built should know what the pitch of the roof is and should know what materials are allowed to be used or not used. So it's we've talked about this honestly for several months as some of these started to come up, and there'd be complaints from homeowners we have one example where that was really complex of a property owner had a tree cut down that thought was on their property but wasn't, and it was on the adjoining property, and then the only person we can hold accountable is the person on the property, and so it just became this triangulation of a mess. It's not so much that this would fix it, but it's just why are the folks that should be the most knowledgeable about our rules the only ones that have no accountability to those rules. And so it was just a backwards, thing for us. And remember, all this stuff, this is not, a lot of what we are doing in terms of preserving our tree canopy, a lot of these rules, as you guys know, are relatively new, in recent years. This is not all, things we've been doing for a long, long time. So I think this is just another positive step in that evolution to hold people accountable, to hold businesses accountable. So as I said, I keep reiterating, this is not to pick on anybody. This is just asking simply the same requirement that we have for so many other businesses that work in our city. There's a lot of different ways that you could have licenses taken away at many different levels if you as the expert don't do it right. And so I just don't believe that this is an industry that should be that should be an outlier to that. I think this is something that they should be accountable to as well.
So you mentioned a bunch of other ordinances and things on the December agenda. I guess with all these ordinances coming up, is there any movement on finding a permanent city attorney?
It is posted. It's open, but no new update. We'll obviously continue to look at applications that come through and make our best decision from there. Our team right now, even the our assistant city attorneys Heather and Vanessa are doing a great job. We're able to we're able to obviously Beggs and Lane is the acting city attorney, and John and his team have been able to work on some things. And when there's conflicts with them, we've had some other firms in the city working on stuff. And so I think we're in still in a pretty good place right now. We want to make sure that we have the right person in that job. And I've just always been in the school. I don't care what job it is. That the selection is very, very important, and the right person is very, very important. So it's not. So I'm not going to be rushed or at the end of the day, I'd rather continue working the way that we're working and ensure that we have the best quality candidate that we can get. And so that's where we are right now. And I think everything's working perfectly fine. As you know, many cities, counties actually will. So I have no issue with having other firms, working on projects. There's some cities that have that third party out their entire city attorney's office. So, the mix of having some folks here on site with familiarity and that we're able to get ordinances, and Vanessa and Heather have worked on a lot of what we're going to be discussing in December, if not all of it. And that's allowed John and others to work on some things like American Magic, like the airport ST, and some other things as well. So we're in a good place right now, and when opportunity comes and we think we've got the right person for the job, we'll look at that from there.
So when you say it's open, is it just staying open and you're just like reviewing the canvas?
Yeah.
Looking forward to playing some pickleball at the port. Can you give an update on that?
Sure. So the last, I can't give a very big update on that, but the last update I know that's being discussed is that the folks that are going to operate there, that have the leaseholders, are going to potentially look at getting some outdoor courts put in first, and just because of the expediency. But that is not finalized. I know that that's just some ongoing discussions that are happening with the port, and I'm not briefed up enough to know where that stands. I just know that has been discussed, is to say, knowing that, again, as we talked about when it happened, there's a significant amount of repair and renovation that will need to be done to that very old warehouse 4. You're talking about $1 million+ roof potentially alone, much less all of the other things to bring it up to code. Not because they would be doing one or the other, but in terms of time and expediency, perhaps getting some courts out and set up, which was part of the plan as a whole, was to have some outdoor courts, maybe doing some outdoor courts first just to get it activated, and then work on the big project simultaneously or right after. I know is something that is being discussed right now, but as I said, that's not anywhere near final or that I'm aware of yet, so we can get an update. All right, thanks guys, appreciate it.